by Navy people.
Oh,
I mean,
sure.
to the point of it was chosen as one of the top picks for sailors, submarine sailors.
.com.
And we got a very interesting email from the president of Electric Boat, Jan Coffey. At one point, Jim and I both worked with him, and he knew Jim pretty well, and he wrote to us and said that he was in Washington and speaking with one of the commanders that deals
some
with
admiral from the nuclear
regulatory commission, and he John mentioned to him, oh, you have to read this book, this is amazing. Two of our ex-employees wrote this, and he said, and he took a copy of the book out of his briefcase, and he said, I've read it, we need to speak about security.
Well, I have to ask you, was the book conceived before the submarine was stolen, or after the submarine was stolen?
No, no, the submarine wasn't really stolen.
We just made that up.
Oh, I see. Okay.
We just made that. Was just our fictional.
But reading this, they said, yes. Ooh, I see vulnerabilities.
Yes.
They used to say. Now, who was it? Is it Tom Clancy that actually was like debriefed after one of the books he wrote?
Well,
that he had said some things that they were real surprised he knew, and he ended up being called in for questioning.
That's absolutely possible. I remember at the time when Tom Clancy wrote Hunt for the Red October, Jim and I were both working at the shipyard then.
And everybody in the shipyard read it, of course.
Yeah, everybody in the shipyard read it.
And pointed out every detail that was wrong.
I realized that kind of these high-stake thriller themes run through all your books. And now you've got this book where you're pulling all of them together, and that's just so cool. But now the one previous to this was called The Project.
Well, we did Deadliest Strain first.
Deadliest Strain was the one right before it, and prior to that was The Project.
So we had The Deadliest Strain. Now the Deadliest Strain is sort of a medical biological warfare.
Right, exactly.
But also there are two parts really to that book, and that's a book that has gotten amazing reviews because it also deals with the politics of war and
in the Middle East.
In the Middle East, and the fact that I was born in Iran, but I've been living here for 30 years. There were side of the politics there that people in here really you don't see it in the headlines, and so I've been the top, many requests to speak at the book clubs regarding this. So it's interesting that you write a medical thriller, but people focus on the Middle East connection of it.
Well, people in different countries, look at these things very differently. And one of the things that the ability to watch television on the internet, for example, and I'm not just talking about news programs. You expect news programs to kind of have a different spin on things than we do. But I've been watching this show, and your book made me think of this very much. It's called Regenesis, and it's a Canadian show about a laboratory that is a research laboratory that deals with biological threats. And they work with the Canadian government and the U.S. government, and it's all fictional. But they say things that I don't know if you couldn't even get away with saying them on American popular television about their attitude about biological threats and how Homeland Security handles those things. And they get to be way more critical than I suspect a network show in the United States could get away with.
But it's very fascinating because as part of that book, Deadliest Strain, some of the research that we've done and some of the facts that actually are accurate that show up in the book are news, again, that they were not in American magazines or newspapers or media at the time when they happened. And that's fascinating to people. That's fascinating when, we speak at a book club group and show the headlines of, say, a New York Times on a certain date of, on page 25, they might have had a small article about an item, and then you show newspapers in England or Australia or Europe, and that's the top headline of number of people that were killed, and it's just fascinating to people, different groups.
Now, and then The Project. Tell me about that. Let's talk about that one.
The project was had to do with medical research and a project that dealt with
doing experimentation on kids and that
teenagers.
Super children.
Teenagers, yeah. And what's fascinating is a lot of people ask where the ideas come from, and we were taking the train from Bridgeport to New York, and we were supposed to have lunch with our publisher, and we had just delivered the book, and we were up for contracts. So, and so we were just brainstorming, and there was a young man sitting in front of us. And
reading the Wall Street Journal.
And there was an article just caught our eye in there.
About biomedical stuff.
And brain implants, and what they could do with brain implants. So before we arrived in New York, we actually had the idea for this book, which we end up writing the book. But it also deals with children that are they have no parents. These are children that are in state-run agencies, and how at one point somebody in the was at the wrong place, wrong time, but was able to take advantage of these children and do experimentation.
That's
on
actually a theme that runs through my series, because the leading character in my series, Mercy, was a product of. She was in a ward of the state. She was in foster homes, and she was in various group homes, things like that, throughout her life. And she has this. It's a paranormal series, so she has some paranormal abilities that kind of allowed her to keep herself safe. But she saw people around her exploited because they were vulnerable. There was nobody to go to bat for them, and so it's a particular hot button for her when she sees somebody exploiting children or exploiting young people. And it's something that makes her very angry, because she herself so easily could have been a victim of those things.
And that's certainly, socially, I think that's an issue that we're all concerned about. I mean, in terms of children who are vulnerable and how people are going to make it in society. I mean, those are underdogs that people want to root for sure.
Now, in looking through some of your books, and I was reading little excerpts here and there, because I know that I've read some of the 1 through 5, but I was trying, okay, which ones of these did I read? And I was looking through them, and I kept seeing kind of a theme that I noticed about the computer guru or the hacker or the person who is using the internet, or they're using these systems for good or for bad.
It's the engineer.
And so I'm saying, which one of you is the geek? Because I know one of you is a computer geek. I know that there's an inner geek there somewhere.
I am a geek, but I do have. In fact, funny thing, when just recently at my younger son's school, they had an event that dress as a geek day, and so he went to school, and everybody voted him to look the most like a geek. And this kid is not a geek, but.
Well, see, a geek used to be a bad thing, but now it's people that I know. It's a badge you wear proudly.
And then so he announced to everyone, "I'm just wearing my mother's things, like safety glasses and pocket protectors."
Nikoo and I, life.
But that's cool now. People, when you turn around and say, "Who's the richest man in the world?" It's like, well, Bill Gates, or at least he was. I don't know if he still is.
Enough.
But he's close enough. Who's going to say, "Gee, Bill, you're a billion short from this other guy"? And he didn't get there by being like the coolest dressed guy. You see him; he drives his own car. His glasses are always smudged. You want to take them off and wipe them off and give them back to him.
Well, Nikoo and I, we had life in the life as a writer is really life
it's so glamorous,
in the fast
yes.
lane.
Yeah.
Nikoo and I had spent on Sunday afternoon. We took our
color laser printer.
HP laser printer apart
to little tiny pieces. And our son, same younger son, looking at us, and it's like there is such a thing as when something breaks, you take it to the Staples or whatever you bought it, and they fix it, or you buy a new one. And you're like, "No, we're going to fix this."
We did.
6 hours later, we fixed it.
We got it back together. We only had a few extra parts left over.
My printer doesn't work, or my internet connection goes down.
Oh no!
Oh no! And I don't know how anyone researched a book before they had the internet. We had to actually go to the library or call people up on the phone and ask them questions, or actually go interview somebody to get research done.
And also the myth of the solitary writer has gone away now, because